Hi guys, welcome to a new video. In this video, we'll be making this satin slip skirt. It is really easy to make. If this is your vibe, keep watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll be notified whenever I make a new post. Thank you very much. Now we're going to be needing 2 yards of a Duchess satin fabric. This is actually in good color. Of course, my tape and then a piece of paper. The measurement we'll be needing for this is your waist measurement. Mine is 28. Hip measurement, mine is 44. And the skirt length, that's the full length of the skirt. And mine, I think I used... It was meant to be 28 inches, but I ended up using 30 inches, 29 for the full length of the skirt, and then an extra inch to just turn it up. So I ended up using 30 inches. Now, just do like a little illustration on a paper so you understand easily when I'm cutting it out on fabric. What I'm going to do, remember this is 2 yards of fabric. There are two ways that you can go ahead cutting this. Now, let's say this is your 2 yards. This is where you measure your 2 yards. This is the yardage of your fabric. So you're just going to fold it in a triangular form, just like this. This is what is going to look on one side. One side is going to be shorter than the other side. And then you can decide to further fold it into two. This is you cutting both the front and the back together. So you can fold it into four, triangular shape into four. That is one way to go about it. Why another way is to divide your 1 yard, your 2 yards of fabric into two, 1 yard each, and then you're just going to fold them in triangular shape, just like I'm doing, like so. You're going to get your waist, your hip. I'm just going to illustrate. Say this is your waist, your hip, and your full length. So this is exactly what you're going to have. You're going to cut it off. Do the same thing on the other part. So this is you cutting both fabrics separately, front separate, back separate. So you can pick which one works easy for you. If you're just starting out, I advise you actually cut the front and then you cut the back. But when I was cutting mine, I actually decided to cut the front and the back together. So this is me getting the triangular shape. As you can see, I was just trying to arrange it because this fabric is a little bit slippery. When you are doing this, please make sure you give this a very good press, because if you don't, sometimes it will not match. So give it a very good press so it will lay very flat. Now, after I've gone ahead to get one triangle, this is me folding the other triangle. As you can see, I've gone ahead to fold into four. So now I have 4 pieces instead of 2. This means I'm cutting the front and the back together. So this is what you are going to have. Now, after pressing, I'm going to measure the exact part where I have my waist measurement plus 1 inch. The 1 inch is going to serve as allowance on both sides. So instead of my waist being 7 inches, I'm using 8 inches. I'm going to be putting a zip on one side of this. So I'm just going to have an allowance of 1 inch on both sides. So I'm using 8 inches for my waist measurement. After getting the point, I'm just going to go ahead and extend the line just like this. After doing that, I'm going to be going from my waist to hip measurement, which is 10 inches. I'm just going to rule a line across. And after ruling a line across, I'll go ahead and mark my hip circumference divided by 4, which is actually 11 inches. So this is me trying to mark 11 inches. Yeah. Now, after marking my hip plus my allowance, the next thing to do is to mark the full length. Now, you're going to be marking this full length like you would usually mark for a flea. That means you're just going to be going round from your waistline. You're going to be marking 30 inches, depending on what length you prefer. So this is me just trying to mark 30 inches round the skirt. So I'm sorry that it wasn't showing properly, but this is me trying to measure to be sure that I got 30 inches. And it was 30 inches. I don't know why the camera just cut it off, but I was actually marking 30 inches. I'm just cross-checking to be sure that my waist matches, just to be sure, my hip and every other thing. And I'm just going to connect like so. You connect to the hip line. This fabric was very slippery, as you can see from the video, so it was very hard to work with. I was just trying to manage the fabric. So after connecting to the hip line, I'm just going to go ahead and connect to the bottom line. You don't want this to be flare, so you can choose to measure it. I think you can use about maybe 32-33 inches for the wideness of the lower parts, because you don't want it to be very flare, but then again you don't want it to be straight. That's why you're cutting on bias. So there, you're just going to make your choice, because I've realized some people want it a little wider. It just depends on what you want. So I've moved the camera up a little bit so you can kind of see what I got as the full length of this skirt. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut out on the lines. They're not very visible, but just follow the illustration I made on the paper, and you see that this is actually very easy. I'm just following the lines, and this is what it looks like when I was done cutting out. Now for this skirt, because it doesn't have a band, you'll be cutting out a facing. A facing is what is going to serve as the band, just like you usually do for your neckline. You're just going to place the skirt on top of a smaller piece of fabric, and you're going to trace out the waistline, just like you usually do for your neckline. Make sure to give it a good press, because this fabric is actually very tricky, so it will lay down very flat. After ironing and aligning, I'll go ahead to trace out the waistline just like I'm doing. Make sure it is very neat. Then I'm also going to go down by the side, and then I'm going to remove the skirt, and then I'm going to measure how long I want my facing to be. Usually 1.5, 2 inches or 3 inches is okay, but I use 2.5 inch for the facing of my skirt. I'm going to be cutting out 2 pieces of this fabric for both sides of the skirt. That's the front part and the back part of the skirt. After I was done, I had 2 pieces of this facing. The next thing to do is to go ahead and iron an interfacing, just to give it a little bit of definition. So iron an interfacing on top of your facing. After that, you're going to place your facing on the front side of the skirt, and you're going to go ahead, sew it, and then top stitch. Repeat this for the front and the back of this skirt. So after I was done, this is what it looks like. You're just going to go ahead and knot it tiny bits, so it will lay very flat when you turn it over to the right side. After that, you're just going to go ahead and top stitch on this facing, so it will be very flat when you're done. And this is what it looks like before ironing. After top stitching and ironing the facing for the skirt, this is exactly what it is going to look like on one side. I also went ahead to weave, that's use a serger to serge the mouth of the facing so that it will look neat. The next thing to do is to place the front and the back, that's both pieces of the skirt, just like I'm doing. You can go ahead and pin it down to make it easy for you, and then you're going to go to the sides and stitch by 1 inch down to the end of the skirt, 1 inch. After I've gone ahead to stitch, I left one side of the skirt open by 8.5 inches, and that's where I'm going to have my zip put in, so I'll be able to open and zip up the skirt. So after inserting the zipper and giving it a good press, this is exactly what it looks like. For the bottom part, you can decide to weave it, or you can decide to take it in, like hem it. I haven't done anything to mine because I'm going to weave it. But if this is something you like, please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll be notified whenever I make a new post. Thank you and bye.